Welcome back to Classic 107. It's always a pleasure to have you here. You are a very busy artist. Do I have this right? You've just come off of a UK tour with Tafel Music?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, it was actually a bit of Europe as well because we were in Bruges, and that was just a week ago. So, it's funny because some people on my Instagram account were commenting. They said, wait a minute, weren't you just in London?
And I love the name of the tour, Love and Betrayal.
Yes.
So what did you perform?
I was singing, it was a Vivaldi and Handel program, and opera arias and from those two composers, and they were intertwined with pieces that the orchestra was playing by themselves. So I was their guest artist.
Now, you do a lot of collaborations with Tafel Music. You have over your career. What is it about that ensemble that you love so much?
Actually, it's wonderful because there was a long hiatus there. We were trying to figure out when I was with them just this past 10 days. It's been a while, actually, since I sang with them. I did a lot of things in my early career, and I guess when things developed in Europe, it was harder and harder to get me over to come and sing with them.
So it's a bit of a homecoming for you then.
It is, and I love this orchestra, and they have a new music director now, and she's Elisa Citterio, and she's wonderful. And the sound of the orchestra is completely changed, and but it's nice to see old buddies and reconnecting, and we had a great time, even though it was a very intense, stressful tour.
Well, it sounds lovely. And like I said, I love the name of the tour. I feel like it should be the name of an album.
Well, you'd never know down the road.
Your next album, Karina. Now, this time around, you are performing cantatas by Bach. Tell me about these pieces.
Well, this is a more reflective program. I'm going to be singing the main piece that I will be singing. It's a solo cantata. I've got contributions in the other cantatas, but there's also a chorus and, of course, the orchestra. But in the piece that I will be singing solo with the group is Ich habe genug. So it's a cantata about reflecting on this life and saying, well, I've had enough of this life. And I'm ready to move on to the afterlife, and it will be a sweet slumber. So it's very meditative, and it's a profound message. So it's completely different from what I've done in the past here in Winnipeg. But it's a piece that's very dear to my heart. It's some of the most beautiful music by Bach, and it's a solo cantata with flute obbligato, so that I will be accompanied by a beautiful Baroque flute. And so anybody that loves Bach has to come because it's one of his masterpieces.
Now, I keep reading, or when I read about this concert, the line always comes up, rarely performed. Just here in Winnipeg or in general?
Well, actually, this cantata, Ich habe genug, is it's usually sung by a baritone, and it's in another key. And but this is sort of a rarity that it was also transposed in another key for soprano with a flute obbligato. So that's a rarity in itself. You never hear it. It's never performed. It's usually performed by a baritone. And the other cantatas as well. I guess it's there's just so much material around that things just get, I don't know, lost by the wayside. I don't know, but anyway, certainly it will be a sort of a rarities concert, but also by a composer that we know so well and
what a treat. I was struck by a quote that appears on the MCO site about the music of Bach, and it's by Nadia Boulanger, who says, When she talks about Bach and about as a teacher and her students, she says, I try to pack them into my pupils at all costs. It would seem a bit odd to me if someone had never read the Bible. I love that quote. Yeah. What do you think of that quote?
Well, she was, an incredible teacher. She taught so many greats herself. She was great, but she also taught so many greats. And of course, I think that, like I said, Bach, these pieces are, it's a meditation, really. And it's an offering, certainly. And when I sing this Ich habe genug, I really feel that it's an offering. And it's good to have a chance to reconnect in this kind of way before the festive season, instead of getting all caught up in what we're doing outside of that, all the commercialism. It's just nice to get back to basics and, let's just think of the important stuff. And I think that certainly that's what she was saying as well. That's in a nutshell, that's what it is. It's getting back to basics, getting back to who we are as individuals and what we put out in the world.
What's next for you after this?
So next week I have what we call Tour dans l'Île in Montreal, in the sort of close vicinity with Orchestre Métropolitain. And it will not be with Yannick Nézet-Séguin. It will be with another conductor, Nicholas Carter. He's a British conductor. And so Yannick told me, he said, you'll love him, he's great. And so I'm doing Britten's Les Illuminations. So I'm doing that on a sort of a 5-concert another whirlwind tour. Then the next day I fly back to London. I've got a week of rehearsals in London, and then I fly to Paris. I'm singing Messiah at La Philharmonie on the 23rd of December. Wow. And then I start rehearsals for production at the Châtelet, Saul by Handel. So I'm going to be in France for the Christmas season and all the way to February. So I've got my work cut out.
Bad. So how will you be celebrating Christmas?
Actually, it's a very nice thing this year that my mother and my sister are flying to Paris. We're having a special Christmas this year because I lost my brother this year.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
So yeah, it's been a difficult year, and so my mother said, well, we need to do something different this year, and so we can not have those memories in Montreal of those sort of traditional gatherings. And so we decided to do something very different. And they're flying over to Paris, and they're going to be spending several weeks in France with me. And so we'll have a newfangled Christmas this year. It'll be, I don't know, in looking towards 2020 and with a new and shining spirit.
What a wonderful thing to be able to do with your family.
Yes.
It sounds lovely.
Yes, yeah.
Karina Gauvin, thank you so much for taking the time out to come and chit-chat with us. And this concert sounds amazing. Yes. And we shall see you at Westminster United Church on Wednesday night.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.